Do you ever wonder how you will be remembered? By your children, by your grandchildren, and even your great-grandchildren? Sure, they may have photos of you, they may even have stories about your life, they may just know the basic milestones, when you were born, when you got married, and when you died. Will they have anything that you touched? Something that you loved? Something that you made with your own two hands? This quilt behind me is a mystery quilt. These cotton squares tell a story, but what they don't tell is anything about the woman who made them. I found it in my grandmother's storage closet about 5 years ago. No one could tell me anything about it. Nobody recognized it. My mom, my aunt, nobody could tell me where it came from or who might have made it. The only thing that we can tell is that it was likely made in the 30s or 40s based on the fabric pattern. One thing I can tell you about this quilt is that it was loved and used and washed over and over again. Some of the squares are worn paper thin and some of the seams were torn. It's a child-sized quilt. What child was comforted after a nightmare by this quilt? Who used it to create a play fort? Who was kept warm on a cold night? Who eventually outgrew this quilt and discarded it? I planned to take it home and repair it myself as best I could. Unfortunately, this quilt needed more help than I could give it. So I called a fabric store, Cotton and Chocolate in Thousand Oaks, and I asked if they had anyone they could recommend to do vintage quilt repair. She recommended a woman named Joan who specializes in period costumes for TV shows like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Mad Men. We met up and she took a look at the quilt. She said that a lot of the work needed to be done by hand and she may need to replace some of the squares. She said that it may cost more than I hoped to pay for it. I told her that I would pay whatever it cost on one condition. She had to sign her work. I wanted at least one of the women who poured her heart and her creativity into this quilt to sign her work. Leave her mark. Quilting is a deeply personal art form. It takes creativity, perseverance, talent, and even some math. Because it's considered a traditional female art form, it's not often perceived as anything worthy of a signature. And I wanted to change that. My one condition was that she sign it, and I wouldn't budge. Lucky for me, she decided to mend and to sign the quilt. Now this quilt hangs on my wall. I see it every day. The bright, happy colors cheer me when I'm feeling down. I marvel at the tiny, even, almost invisible stitching. And I think about all the women who have been touched by its beauty over the years. I plan to sign it someday too.